Love had been right. The assault on his castle was perpetrated by a Beastie Caster, and that was why Love had been unable to find a way to directly attack Orange Eyes. It was either a stroke of bad luck for Love, or someone knew enough about him to orchestrate such a coordinated attack. As Sam digested this, he only peripherally noticed that Orange Eyes' voice had shifted tone before going completely silent.
Can no see.
The beastie spat out, clearly struggling with the foreign language. Curiosity getting the better of his instincts, Sam leaned in to hear more. Was this some sort of new spell that Orange Eyes had to say in English in order to cast? The battle across the marsh continued to rage as more fireworks and roars from the Crosswick monster filled the evening air.
But...
Sam leaned in even more closely still, straining his eyes and ears to fight the darkness of the forest, ready to see the magic happen. He was close enough now that the beastie's smell was a physical thing, a veil in and of itself. If Sam wanted to, he could reach out and touch Orange Eyes with the tips of his fingers, or give it a good thwack with his baseball bat. He knew he had precious time before he had to trigger the next step of the plan, but Sam couldn't resist.
But... can smell!
Orange Eyes roared, swinging an arm thicker than most of the trees surrounding them directly in Sam's direction. Sam's face dropped in confusion, and a split second later his upper body exploded in pain as Orange Eyes' bowling ball fist collided with his chest. So great was the momentum of the punch that Sam was lifted off his feet and propelled into a tree behind him, knocking out what little air remained inside of him. As the pain coursed through Sam's body like electricity, his mind filled with only burning white light. For what seemed like an eternity, it was impossible for Sam to form a cohesive thought. As the light faded and he slowly came to his senses, the first complete word to take sensible form was, "Crap!" This wasn't part of the plan at all. His curiosity had gotten the better of him, and now he was in so much pain and shock he could hardly move. Crap! Love was going to be eaten by the Crosswick monster, and an Orange Eyes was going to finish Sam off. This is how it ended. A boy lost in the woods, crushed to death, and left for the marsh bugs. And it was all Sam's fault. The white light paralyzing his mind began to be replaced by a darkness creeping in from the corners. Sam was about to pass out. Good. That's fine. I don't want to be awake for this anyways. Let me sleep. I'm very tired, so let me sleep.
Get moving!
The words cut through both the light and dark, clouding Sam's mind, and his eyes snapped into focus. Sam had only heard Love's voice in his head once before, earlier that night in fact, and it had saved Sam from being overcome by the spirit storm still raging nearby. Deep inside Sam's chest, something sharp was making it painful to breathe. He didn't know if the blood on his tongue came from his mouth or something from within. Sam groaned as he tried to assess the situation through the aching. Towering above him stood the beastie, with the glow of its eyes bathing Sam in a sickly orange light. And it was speaking to Sam. Or rather, it was trying to. Sam apparently regained consciousness halfway through its speech, because he only heard the tail end of the final sentence.
Smell of a traitor!
Sam didn't have time to muse over what this meant, nor did he really care. For a split second, Sam looked past Orange Eyes and caught a glimpse of Love narrowly dodging the snapping jaws of the Crosswick monster.
Hurry, Sam!
To Sam's surprise, Orange Eyes then turned around and walked back to the tree line where it immediately recommenced its chanting. The bastard thinks I'm dead, or at least too incapacitated to do anything. While this wasn't too far from the truth, it struck a chord with Sam. The pain flooding his body mixed in equal parts with the indigent anger and embarrassment. It was the third time in a single night that his weakness left him utterly exposed in front of an enemy. Right there, stuck in the frozen mud, bark digging into his back, and in more pain than he had ever been in his life, Sam made a promise to himself that he would never lose another battle for being too weak to fight back. Hell, losing was fine, but only after he had spent the whole of his strength in the effort to win. It was the sort of personal promise people rarely make to themselves. It was the sort of promise that, once made, triggers an almost physical shift in one's body, like a light switch turning on, or off for that matter. Or maybe the shift Sam felt was his ribs finally breaking after the night's abuse. Gritting his teeth against the sharpness in his chest, Sam managed to lift his right arm above him, as though he was raising his hand in class. Faint in the beginning, But then, building in intensity, a light began to form in the air just above the center of Sam's outstretched palm. At first it was just a pinpoint, but in mere seconds it had grown to the size of a baseball. The warmth of the aura pouring out of Sam's upper body warmed him against the air's chill and, even if temporarily, eased the stinging in his chest. It was the Luz exercise on steroids, and its light was powerful enough to illuminate the forest 10 feet in every direction around Sam. And Orange Eyes. That was the cue. Love, who had been waiting for exactly this moment, zeroed in on the light's source. He had known the devilish beastie was casting from the tree line, but he didn't know exactly where from. And even if Love could pinpoint the beastie, there was little that he could have done, hence the Mothman Golem ruse. With enough aura to ripple the air surrounding the castle's parapet of stone, and to temporarily stop the Crosswick monster in its tracks, Love launched the night's largest firework directly at Sam's light.
Now comes the hardest part. Good luck, boy.
Only 3 seconds had passed between the moment Sam performed the Luz exercise and Love shot the firework blast. The chain of events was so fast that Orange Eyes chose to ignore the sudden, brilliant light that appeared behind him so that he could prioritize dodging the incoming attack. The veil shield Orange Eyes had cast was powerful, but not powerful enough to stop the amount of aura packed into a single missile. Orange Eyes could sense that the old caster in the tower was weakening. Once his belly was full, Orange Eyes himself would descend upon the castle to finish off the old caster. And then after so many nights wasted, he would return triumphant. He would deliver all the castle's magical spellbooks to... His orange eyes widened with a sudden realization that the powerful spell was off target and would hit the tree line to his right, most likely killing the weaker caster in the process. Good. He liked cooked meat better. Unnoticed by the beastie, the light illuminating the forest behind him disappeared. Orange Eyes let out a bubbling chuckle as the magical projectile soared past him, setting his fur on edge as its aura tore through the air. He turned with it so that he could see it hit its mark, and maybe catch a glimpse of the weaker caster screaming before being completely blown away. What he saw instead was a half-invisible Sam Sinclair, bloodied and tattered with his bat at the ready. The stunned beastie lifted the forest spellbook in front of him as an impromptu shield, more out of reflex than anything practical. He wore a stupefied face that looked unpracticed and almost comical with his features, as though he had never once been surprised before in his life. Sam swung with all his might into the oncoming firework. The collision was so tremendous that the subsequent shockwave knocked more than a few tall leaves from their branches. For a brief moment, the dense ball of aura that Love had generated stood still in the air, almost resting on Sam's bat. But then, it exploded. The single firework transformed into a rainbow shower of light and fire that poured into Orange Eyes like a rushing river, setting him ablaze. The fire that engulfed him contained as many colors as the fireworks themselves. At first, the only sound Sam heard was his own gasps for air and the pounding of his heart in his ears. But then the screaming began. Orange Eyes thrashed about, smashing through his veil shield in an attempt to douse the flames in the marsh's water. The fire, however, was not composed of ordinary flames, and instead almost seemed to absorb the aura of the veil shield, growing larger as it was fed. Driven mad from the pain, Orange Eyes walked further out into the marsh in the direction of the castle. Sam followed behind at a safe distance, his baseball bat ready to swing once more if needed. No longer attempting to extinguish the flames that were consuming him, Orange Eyes stopped screaming, and that was somehow worse. The beastie made it 3/4 of the way across the marsh before stopping. Sitting down in the water with a plop, it pathetically attempted to wipe the flames off of its skin, and looked confused when this remedy didn't work. Sam's heart sank. He had been so focused on his own pain and carrying out the plan that he didn't consider the ramifications of seeing the whole thing through. Standing before him, in front of his own very eyes, was a dying beastie. It was going to die because of him. Because of him, Sam Sinclair. The boy that had always protected beasties from other people. The boy who had only ever wanted to photograph them and add their trading cards to his collection. Sam took a step forward, not knowing what he could do to try and save the beastie. Or if he should. Maybe all he needed to do was ease its suffering. But how? He took another step forward.
Sam, stop.
This time Love's voice wasn't in Sam's head. They had moved close enough to the castle that the air could carry his voice to Sam. Looking up, Sam saw the Crosswick monster frozen in place, the orange sigil still present but flickering weakly. Love was looking over the parapet at the scene unfolding in the marsh. Sam found no pity in Love's face for orange eyes. "But, Love, what?" Sam began to negotiate.
Enough. It's over. Look.
Love responded stoically. To Sam's horror, Orange Eyes was almost completely gone, his body consumed in the flames. All that remained was a mass of indistinguishable parts that floated on the marsh's surface. Hovering above it was a ball of fire of every color of the rainbow that remained unaffected by the murky water's touch. I killed it?" Sam whispered in disbelief. Love mused.
Not necessarily. A beastie never truly dies. Not as long as you humans remember it.